Thank you for joining us today. My name is Adriana Galván. I'm a co-executive director of the Center for the Developing Adolescent. We are so grateful for your time and for your flexibility in rescheduling this. As you know, we had to reschedule in the spring pretty quickly, but we're happy that we were able to do it now. Sorry it's so hot outside. It's never this warm in LA, especially in September. But before we're going to say a few remarks, but first I want to acknowledge our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva people, and welcome you all to this space. The Center for the Developing Adolescent, for those of you who don't know, is a center that broadly is aimed at translating the science of adolescence and developmental science more broadly to spaces for folks who make decisions about young people. We aim to support young people and hopefully shift the narrative around all the wonderful attributes that characterize this period of life, and roughly the second period of life. So today we'll be talking more about civic engagement around that space, and my colleague Andrew will say a little bit about that.
Again, along with Adriana and on behalf of all of our staff, we'd like to welcome you here. We do a lot of things to translate and disseminate the science of adolescence. This is probably one of our most favorite things to do. As you can see, it's a nice, intimate gathering of a lot of old friends and a lot of new friends that we want to get to know and get to know your work together. The reason why we have this symposium is to create a space for practitioners, policymakers, funders, young people, and scientists to get together and just have conversations about how the ways in which the science of adolescence can help inform policy and practice, and how policy and practice can help shape and inform the science. We can do this by having a bunch of 45-minute talks. I don't think anyone wants to be sitting through that. What we instead have settled on is this format, and our moderator will be speaking about this in a minute, where we have a bunch of conversations. And so we have some conversations on the stage. Those are accompanied by conversations at the tables. We think this is really the most effective way for old friends and new friends to get together, for people to make connections with one another, to carry those connections forward. We know that a lot of connections have been made. People have gotten to know one another. People have perhaps done some work together. In fact, just this past week, I don't think Laura Ray Lake is here yet, but she was an attendee of the meeting, and she and a couple of the presenters from last year's meeting, which was focused on neuroscience and public policy, just published an article about the promises and pitfalls of adolescent neuroscience for making laws and policies about adolescent agency. Wonderful. Fantastic. You don't have to write a paper after attending this meeting, but what you should do is to make some new friends, get to know one another, share some ideas, and to carry that forward. So we're going to do this by starting off with lunch so we can get to know one another. We've intentionally sat you in a diverse group of folks, and you're going to have some opportunities to talk one another and to move forward. So again, this is intended to have a nice, intimate conversation, because scientists do this, practitioners do this, policymakers, young people, all in silos. We rarely do this together, and this is our opportunity to do so. And so we look forward to having that. I'm going to turn it over to our moderator. We're very thrilled to have, again, joining us this year is Lydia Denworth, who is a very noted science writer and is it consulting editor? Is that the title? Contributing editor to Scientific American. Many of you know of her work, some of her books, and also her really insightful articles about the opportunity of adolescence that have been published in SciAm. She's also a fantastic moderator. We're so thrilled to have you again, Lydia. And I'm just going to turn over to Lydia for a second so she can just sort of outline what the format of the day is going to be like for you.
Thank you, Andrew and Adriana, for having me back, and Megan. I'm happy to be here, and I actually got here in May already, and then left, and then came back again. So it feels like my third event. I'm just going to tell you briefly how this is going to go. Andrew touched on it, but we said we're doing these 4 moderated conversations. So I will be up here with 3 people each time, but it really will be a conversation, and we will only be 35 minutes on the stage, apparently, so we're going to be quick. And instead of a Q&A, you will then be invited to spend 10 minutes or so discussing at your tables at the end of each of those sessions. And invite you, though, to seek people out and ask them questions during the breaks or at the reception after, if you do have questions for people who were on the stage. And there is a 20-minute break in the middle between the first two sessions and the last two, and you are encouraged or welcome to change tables if you would like at that point. Just let's not be adolescent about it and make people feel bad. But know that everybody will be doing that. And that's just to change up the conversations, if you like. At the end, we will hear from Michael Matsuda, who is the superintendent of Anaheim Union School District. And so that'll be really interesting to get your perspective on everything that we've talked about. And I think you will see that as the conversations go, there's going to be overlap. So it's really kind of one long conversation through the day, I think is fair. And then we will be carrying that outside to the reception at the end. Hopefully it won't be too hot. And we can just keep talking and everyone can see each other out. And what I would also just like to say is that because we are trying to get so much content into the conversations, I'm not going to be introducing anybody. So you have detailed bios in your packets, I believe. And there will also be, people's names will be up with each panel so that you can know. But generally there is a researcher, a scientist, and then representatives of organizations doing this important and good work, and then some young people speaking about their own experiences. So the format is the same for all three things. But so please read up on who everybody is to the extent that you would like to in the bios. And I think that's it, yeah? So we're